Good morning. It is morning. It's still fairly early, honestly. It's 7:30. So I've been out for about an hour and a half. I made it out not quite right around as the sun rose, a little after. It's already before a 6 a.m. sunrise here. It's 5:52 as of this morning, but there wasn't much sun. Forecast called for clouds all day, and there were clouds all day as of an hour and a half. Anyway, knowing that and keeping my expectations low, I decided I didn't want to do anything too heavy, grab, any of the really camera stuff much. I brought one just because I always do, but I expected to not really have much of a chance to have the light to do good photos or video. So instead, I decided just audio. Let's go somewhere and get some audio. And this spot was a spot that I haven't been to in a while. It's just directly off the side of a fairly untraveled road, not too far outside of town, so it was a fairly short drive, which is nice because I was racing the sunrise. Sunrise was 5:52 today, so we're already, I think it was a 6 a.m. sunrise when I went out last week, like on the dot, and now it's already creeped back almost 10 minutes, and it will continue doing that until it's closer to a 5:30, 5 a.m. sunrise over the summer. That's what we get here. It's nice and early for me. But went into it with low expectations. Can't stress that enough. I just went, well, let me maybe get some audio. I think I know a spot where visually birds are further away, where I'm right next to the road, but then there's, a good section of grass before the fence that I can't go past, and then there's a large body of water, so birds are further away, but I've been here before. I was here about a year ago. I think I was just exploring that day. I don't remember. Oh no, I remember. I went all the way down this road to see how far it would take me and see if I could get up on top of a mountain, which I could not because it turned into a private road. But I found a spot where I could just pull off where it was public. And that was when I was testing the gimbal with the Pocket Cinema camera. And I was just getting landscape shots and practicing because I just bought that. This place was in my mind because I've been digging through the old footage, trying to make sure that any footage I've gotten where I go, oh, there's birds, make sure that I've identified anything that I can. And this was a spot kind of on the way back from all of that, somewhere around noon when I was on my way home. I was driving down the road and I went, well, wait a minute, what's that? And I pulled off and all I had was this vlogging camera, which the lens goes to 45. It's got a crop sensor, so technically it makes it a little bit further, but 45 millimeters is not a lot. It's not very much at all, but I did what I could with it, and then I zoomed in the footage and post and everything. Point was, I saw sandhill cranes, which I'd never seen before, which were very orange. That was cool. So it made me think about that place already as I've been going back through the archives and making sure I'm up to date to try to hit my goal of 100 new birds, not new ones. In total, having identified and published on the website 100 different birds that I have in some way, still photo, video, anything. Anyway, point being, I wasn't expecting to do any of that today. It was just meant to be, come out, get some audio. And because I was racing against the clock, I just grabbed some stuff and went out. And I sat down and I started going, and there were birds, pulled right off to the side of the road. I've moved since then to record this. I'm not sitting at the same point because now I'm facing towards the water, whereas before I just pulled off on the side. But it makes my car do a little bit of this, and I'm not entirely comfortable with this because all I could do is look at my car and go, okay, I recognize that it's safe enough on that steep, but what if? And then I don't want to take that chance. It doesn't make me feel too comfortable to sit in that. Anyway, point being, I was watching the birds, getting some audio. I think that hopefully came out pretty well. I did start out thinking that the wind would not be nearly as bad, because the wind wasn't when I got here. There was basically no wind. So I did have about 5 minutes where I went, uh-oh. About 5 minutes of recording, and then I went, uh-oh. And I went and grabbed the windscreens for them. But I'm hoping that some of that audio came out. There's plenty of wildlife and birds to listen to. I can see more of them. But low expectations. I will continue to repeat that because that is how I was feeling. I just went, let's try to get some audio. Brought the camera anyway, but didn't bring the best camera. I just brought the camcorder. It doesn't do the best, but it does fine, and that's why I got it. It still can do 4K, and it's what I want. So I was just getting that, mostly some silhouette, like, because I'm facing into the sun, which is one of the reasons why I have not been back here in a year, because I recognize that this place, not the most ideal, right next to the road, so there were only 2 cars this morning. It is very early, and also not very populated. There probably wouldn't be that many cars anyway. I've probably only seen, the few times I've been out here, 5 or 6 cars in total. But the point is that where the sun is rising and where I sit and everything, right there off to the road, it's just straight on. So some nice silhouettes of the birds near the water, and you get a good contrast between the very bright water that reflects the light and then the dark grass and everything, and they're on the side. So I think some of that footage looked cool. We'll see. What I didn't expect was to see new birds, ones I haven't seen before and identified. And I think I saw 3 new ones today, which was... I didn't expect that at all. That was pretty cool. I think I saw... I'm not able to identify them entirely, though the footage will be in the video coming up. But I'm pretty sure, after flipping through the books and looking around, I'm pretty sure some of the waterfowl I saw were shovelers, I think they're called, because they've got a bill that's much longer and kind of stouter at the end and looks in a shovel shape almost. They've got much more of that, whereas you might think of your standard duck that you might be familiar with has a much smaller bill and round on the end. So I'm pretty sure I saw that. And they had like red and white on their body, which stood out more and made me go, that's not your typical mallard that I see. So that, or any of the other waterfowl that I've been out here identifying and seeing. So I saw that, and that was really cool. And then a little bit later on, there's a patch out in the water of trees, just half submerged trees. And there's a lot of birds that go in there, and not so much waterfowl because they're up on the branches. And they were there, and I figured, and I could hear red-winged blackbirds. I'm getting to the point where I can identify that one because it's so very distinct, and I've seen them quite a number of times. They're quite common. So that I thought would be what they were, until a group of them came and flew up onto the fence that I was sitting not too far from. And I zoomed in with the camera and looked, and, well, they had yellow heads, and then a streak right above where the arm meets the body, the wing meets the body. There was a streak of another color there. So I'm not entirely sure. They're still kind of backlit, but I think the footage may have come out enough for me to look and see. I don't know what those are. I would guess a yellow-headed something. Bunting? I think I've read yellow-headed bunting. No idea. That might not be right at all. I'll find out when I edit the footage. So that was that, and I went, great, I've seen 2 new birds today. That's really cool, and hopefully the footage comes out of both of them, because that's awesome. And then, as I was leaving, I pulled back out onto the road, and I went down till I got to the next crossroad so I could turn around. And I turned around and I came back, and I knew that I could come to this spot here, which is more of a drive into where there was a fence at one point, like an opening to go out onto the fields, but it doesn't matter, it's private lane anyway. But point is, getting back to here, and I pulled up and I went, oh, well, wait, what's that over there? And I got out of the car and I went and looked at the mallards that caught my attention on the other side of the road with just a little puddle. And there's a red duck there. Something very red that I have not seen before. So that makes 3. I'm hoping the footage came out for that as well. At least enough for me to identify it. I can't get all that close. This camera has a 20 times optical zoom starting at 24 millimeters. Now, if my math is correct there, 24 times 10 is easier to do, where that becomes 240 millimeters, and then double that, and that goes to 480 millimeters. So a little bit less than what I would typically shoot at with most of my stuff, if that's actually accurate. It's still plenty for what I need, and the fact that I can always use more. But anyway, point being, hopefully some of that came out. Hopefully some of the footage looks at least interesting or cool, and then the audio was the main focus. And after I moved it a little bit further away from me, when I realized I could hear myself kind of rustling about when I would move the camera and things like that, then I recorded for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of just nature sounds. And there was plenty of birds, so I think it sounds good. And that'll be cool. So that is everything I have today. I didn't expect much, and now it is fully cloud coveraged over, so I don't expect to get much else today. I think the birds also know that there is a storm incoming because they are kind of more active, which is what I've heard, that they, when they can sense the weather is changing and they can sense the weather rolling in, the rain and everything that they also need to be protected from. They're more active right before that because they're in a panic of, I got to get food. Who knows how long this storm could be? I got to get shelter and food and a mate and all of those things. So they tend to be a bit more active right towards that. So I would expect that closer to when the storm is actually going to hit in a few hours. But then again, those clouds up above are real dark and they moved in real quick and covered up the sun. So anyway, that's been my day today. It was a short one, but still glad to get out and do it. And really glad I got to see 3 new birds, which was not what I was expecting. I just did an update video where I went through all the footage. I went through all my website, everything, and I've cataloged everything that I can identify. I still have a couple that are unknown to me, but I just don't feel comfortable guessing unless I'm more like, if I have 3 bird books that I typically reference when I'm identifying, and if I can get it to match between those enough to the point where I go, yes, this is it, or there's one, sometimes a feature, a streak of a color or something like that in a bird is enough for me to go, there it is, then that's good enough. And so I identified everything, and I did a little update video to talk about it, and my goal of 100 since I started. And I realized, I looked back, I started 4 years ago next month. I think that was the first time I bought a telephoto lens and I went out starting to look for birds and experience photography. And I wrote about that, and I believe I wrote about it on my blog, on the website, because that's all I had at the time. And I dated that June 1st, 2018. And we are on May 8th, 2022. So we're a couple weeks away from it being 4 years since I technically started going out and experiencing and looking for wildlife. And I didn't really get into it for another year after that until I dove full into, this is what I want to do. And then it's just been all uphill since then of everything. Anyway, point being, trying to get to 100 since then. And I am at 90 out of 100. So the 3 today should put me at 93. And it's only May. So I can get 100. I'm fairly confident I'll be able to find 7 new birds, especially if I wind up moving locations entirely up several thousand feet in elevation up into the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, which is still up in the air. Not determined yet, but maybe a possibility. Yeah, cool. Well, enjoy the footage. I'll put it in here now that I'm done talking. That was everything that I've done today, and probably all that I will do, because I'll get ready to head home since the weather's getting cloudy, even more so, and the rain will be coming. But I'm glad I got out and do that. Bye-bye.